Welcome to Octagon Circles and Squares, an NBC Sports podcast covering all the action in the cage, the mat, and the ring. I am your host, Stephen D'Agostino, and today we take a look at UFC 296. The UFC's tradition of having stacked year-end cards continues this weekend with 2 title fights and plenty of star power on the card. One of those superstars, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, joins the show to help us break down his fight. Also, he gives us his picks for some of the other fights on the card. Speaking of picks, NBC Sports betting analyst Brad Thomas joins the show as always to help us win you in a little extra cash this weekend. All that coming up and more, but first, this holiday season, get the fantasy fan in your life the exclusive Roto-World Draft Guide bundle featuring expert analytics, player insights, and season-long tools. Get all 3 of the draft guides for one low price. Go to NBCSports.com/holiday bundle and use code HOLIDAY23 at checkout to receive 25% off and a $10 Fanatics gift card. Joined now by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. How's the week been going? How's the weight cut and the preparation?
It's going great, man. I mean, the weight cut's going well. My last cut was just amazing. So we're definitely lower than we were last time, which is going to be even easier. I feel confident with the fight. This week has been great. A lot of media hyping it up. So, I mean, it's going to be a banger. So, I mean, it's understandable. You got some great fights on the card, including myself and Shavkat Rakhmonov. So hopefully everybody tunes in.
How did this fight come about? Because I know you were supposed to fight earlier in the year. Your opponent missed weight. You kind of had to readjust your camp. There was talk about an Usman fight potentially. I mean, what kind of challenges happens when you're kind of in and out of these camps? Is it like a mental challenge, or how difficult is it to kind of shift gears like that?
Oh man, it's really not that difficult, to be honest with you. I mean, when the fight didn't happen, my manager has really worked hard on getting me the right fight and a guy that nobody wanted to fight. And this is the fight that I've kind of been looking for because, I've got a small window to kind of do what I want to do with the fight game and want to get that title shot. That's for sure. And what better guy to show the UFC and the fans that I'm capable of that than fighting and defeating Shavkat Rakhmonov.
You mentioned Shavkat here. He is a pretty bad dude. He's all a 100% finish rate, all finishes. But on the other end, you've been notoriously tough to finish and a lot of times escaping damage whatsoever. It kind of feels like that unstoppable or immovable object versus an unstoppable force kind of conversation. How do you see that playing out in this matchup of styles on Saturday night?
Yeah, man, the guy's good everywhere. He kind of reminds me of a Rory McDonald, somebody who I've faced in the past, and I've faced undefeated guys before and come out on top. So, he's just another one of those guys. I mean, stylistically, I think it's a great one. He comes forward, stands up tall, basic striking. He's definitely going to look to try to get the fight to the ground, I believe. So my goal is to keep the fight standing and pick him apart from the outside and look for the finish. If it's there, it's there. But it's not, it's not. I'm looking for, getting my hand raised at the end of that fight.
You mentioned specifically the style of him closing the distance there and doing some damage from the clinch. The one common opponent you guys have that I felt kind of exposed that a little bit was the Jeff Neal fight, where he did get tagged coming in and out of those clinches a lot. And then, Shavkat had a hard time taking him down. Did you take anything away from that fight that kind of like made your mouth water a little bit that you could, do some damage here?
Yeah, man, I took a lot from that fight, actually, because we both faced Jeff Neal as well. But the thing is, Shavkat's he's an intelligent guy, so I do believe he came out of that fight learning some thing or two and definitely worked on it. So I feel like I'm going to be facing the best Shavkat Rakhmonov come this Saturday.
You are the longest odds on the main card. I don't know how much you pay attention to the betting stuff. I know you've done some pick previews on your YouTube channel, which is immaculate, by the way. Congrats on the channel. Does that like weigh anything in your mind as being a big underdog? And how do you fight being an underdog? Have you ever been like that long odds before in your career?
Yeah, man, I've been the underdog many times before, and it doesn't bother me, to be honest with you. I mean, I can just go out there, no pressure, just go out there and do what I need to do to win the fight, So it doesn't bother me one bit that I'm the underdog. It just makes it much more exciting when I do win it.
40 years old now. You had said previously you feel like you're in your 20s though, and you look great. You're fighting great. Where would a win in this fight put you? Do you think on the ladder? And then, inversely, just given the stage in your career, if there were to be a loss, what are you looking for in the future as far as, longevity wise with your fight career?
Yeah, man. I mean, I will fight as long as nobody will let me, man. Or when my dad says I'm done, my coach. But, a good win over him. I think if I go out there and finish, we might be looking at another title shot. But if not, if I go out there and just win the fight, unanimous decision, or just win it, we could be definitely looking at a number one contender fight in the future as well. So, I mean, I don't even like to talk about if I lose. So I'm not even going to throw that out there. Only when I win, man. So that's the plan. That's the plan. Go out there and finish this guy. We're looking at a title shot. If not, number one contender, baby. Let's go.
I love that logic, and it's probably why you've had so much success in your career. Is just a mental juggernaut as well as striking juggernaut as well. Speaking of striking juggernauts, the main event is a guy you're familiar with that you've called out a lot in Leon Edwards. It's a huge tilt in your weight class. How do you see that fight going down? Obviously, Leon tends to go to the decisions, but do you think that there could be a finish in that main event?
I think there could be. I mean, nobody expected the finish from the first fight with him and Kamaru Usman. They both fought at Kamaru. I got leaning towards my man Leon because, I think he already beat the best of the two, Kamaru Usman, because they fought twice and Kamaru came out on top. I think he's the better wrestler. He's also got a gas tank. And Leon Edwards, he beat him twice. Even though the first fight, Colby's got to calculate too. This is a guy who's strong. He's got good grappling skills as well. He took down Colby Covington. I mean, not Colby, Kamaru Usman, and held him down the first fight. So Colby's got to think about that. And the fact that he's just as dangerous in the fifth as he is in the first. So that's another thing he's got to worry about. So I'm leaning towards my man Leon. So there could be definitely a finish if he's able to keep the fight standing.
I know you'd mentioned you just love the idea of fighting Leon. If it were to happen that Leon did drop this fight, would you still be looking to get a tilt with him, or is it straight to the top against Covington for you?
No, man, I would love to fight Leon. I've been wanting to fight this guy for a while now. So if that's the case, we want to go the Leon route and to test myself against the former welterweight champ.
It's just funny that you're on this card with a lot of smack talkers, and it just got me thinking. You're well known for just being the nicest guy in the sport. What's the meanest thing you've ever said to anyone off the top of your head?
Oh, man, I don't know, man. I think it was a time where that's one of my pet peeves is people talking while I'm in the movie theater. I think I turned around and said something, but it wasn't mean. I was just like, dude, we're watching a movie. You know what I mean? And, just telling them to be quiet. But that's about it. Other than that, just stuff that I joke around with my family. But I don't, man. I don't say anything mean. I'm just not that guy.
Do you remember what movie it was?
Oh, man, I think it was like an Avenger movie. I was in Long Island with Chris Weidman. And Chris Weidman was like, dude, are you kidding me right now? Like, are you getting ready to fight this guy because he's not being quiet? I was like, yeah. I paid for a cinematic adventure, dude. I want to be zoned in. I want to hear this dude talking behind me. That's like one of my pet peeves, man. I cannot stand it when people are talking while you're in the movie theater.
That poor guy. What an awful scenario. Wrong place, wrong time. You have Chris Weidman and Stephen Thompson in the movie theater in front of you. You had John Vellante there at the time. Vellante was there. Oh my gosh, it would have been nuts. But yeah, we ended up saddling it. It was cool. That should be a commercial for Regal. They play before the movies or something. Silence your cell phone.
Don't talk or you get beat up by a UFC fighter.
Well, last one for me here. I know you got to get going. I got a lot going on. I really appreciate the time. Just like visualization drill for us, heading in the weekend. How do you see, the fights ending specifically in your dream scenario, and how do you see your hand getting raised out there Saturday?
My dream scenario would be a sick head kick KO, but I'm prepared for a 3-5 in a round war. And if the knockout's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. I visualize my hand being raised at the end of the round, and that's all I focused on.
Well, Stephen, a consummate professional. Awesome watching you fight. Awesome chatting with you. Can't thank you enough, man. Good luck this Saturday, and we'll definitely be watching, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. You have a good one, brother.
Get your weekday started with Bet the Edge. Join Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick as they tackle the biggest games from every angle in the NFL, NBA, and more. So whether you're targeting spreads and totals, looking for value in futures markets, or circling player props, Jay and Drew have you covered with new episodes every weekday at 6 a.m. Eastern. We now welcome on our betting analyst, Brad Thomas. Brad, you always do so great with these UFC previews. I just keep bugging you to keep you coming back on. This card is huge. So yeah, not only are you crushing it, but this card is crushing it too. How excited are you to see the fights this upcoming weekend?
This is like the one time where I'm more excited to watch the fights than to actually bet on them. Like, this card is so stacked. It has a little bit for everyone, right? Like, everyone who likes the stories of the Fergusons, those legacy stories of Wonder Boy. And then it has the newer fighters, right? The up and coming guys who are just blazing trails on the UFC. So I think that, the traditional UFC supporters who liked it, ages ago, and the newcomers to the sport are both going to be really satisfied with this fight. And I think that makes it more of a conversation piece, right? These fights are going to be talked about a little bit more because it's a good mix of the new and the old on the main card.
We were talking before we started taping here about how the UFC used to do these like super epic cards around New Year's Eve, and now they've shifted to pre-Christmas. So it always sneaks up on me, these monster cards, because I'm used to them being around New Year's. But yeah, nonetheless, this is a monster card. It's got a little bit of everything. Let's start with the main event, Brad. I mean, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. It's a huge fight. There's a lot of smack talk, which always seems to be the case when Covington's in the mix. Is there anything betting-wise that catches your eye with this main event?
Yeah, I'm going to go for value here, and I'm going to take Leon Edwards to win by knockout plus 400 here. We talked about this offline already, where Leon Edwards doesn't finish a lot of fights. Yeah, he had that great kick to Kamaru Usman, which finished the fight there. But I do think that stylistically, Colby Covington could be in for a little bit of trouble. And what I mean by that, Leon, true southpaw, fighting in this fight has a chance to fight from range and land shots on Covington. But Covington's not going to go down easy, hence the price of the plus 400, right? He's got a great tank. He's got a great motor, great wrestler, and he's a dog. He's an absolute dog and a grinder in the fight. But what I do worry about Covington in this fight is arrogance. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it's stylistic.
It's the right word.
Yeah, stylistic arrogance, which
yes.
can get good fighters caught. And he hasn't fought a ton. He's only had one fight, last 3 years, 2 years. So some of those things could play into effect in getting a price of plus 400 for the guy who I think is going to win the fight. I'll take my chances. I think we're just getting tremendous value there.
Covington hasn't fought since March 5th of 2022. So not too far off from a 2-year layoff, which I agree at that price, a guy that hasn't fought that long. And Edwards, not the greatest finisher, but definitely within the range of outcomes to get a KO finish here at that price. It is a fun bet. Also considering Covington's a good guy to cheer for, to want to get knocked out. He makes that very, very easy. So it would be a fun sweat at that price. If I wanted to go a little bit more conservative here, I would probably take Edwards. The money line is tough. It's really not a lot of value there, but I would take Edwards by points. He's had problems with wrestlers before. We've seen that in the Usman fight, other than that knockout finish that he did have. But the knockout came super late, as we remember, and he was getting cooked for most of that fight. So Leon's definitely okay, especially with these grapplers, dragging them into deep water and trying his luck there. He only has 2 KOs or finishes in his last 10 fights. And like I said, both was the Usman one, and his second KO came very, very late. So I do think this goes late. Edwards by points is plus 155. So if I was going a little more conservative, I'd probably go there. But I do like your bet as well. I'll probably sprinkle a little bit of both, Brad.
No, I like your bet a lot, and it's probably in the most likely realm of possibilities here. For me, I just wanted to get a little bit more bang for my buck, and something that I think is not as far off as the price indicates. That's what I like to try to keep that mentality when I'm betting on fighting is you want to get the most bang for your buck while still seeing possible fight outcomes.
That's a perfect segue to the co-main event when we're looking at outcomes here. Alex Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. As far as outcomes go, the submission victory is begging to be bet right here. Pantoja subbed Royval in their last meeting 3 fights ago, and Pantoja is just an absolute monster on the ground. Brad, what are you looking at to cash in on this fight?
Yeah, I have just a lean for me here, and it's Pantoja inside the distance at minus 125. I genuinely believe he subs him out again for the second time here, but the win by submission price is plus 150. I didn't think the 75 cents of value was worth it in my eyes, but let's just be for real. Like Royval, he's he's only 6 of his 7 fights have not gone the distance. He's been subbed, or sub has happened in this 4 out of the 7. One thing that I was looking at when I was watching his interview, this was actually something that made me more interested in Pantoja than before. During his interview, one of his latest interviews, he said that from the Pantoja fight till now, what he's consistently worked on was getting better at balance, having a better balance. And whenever you're taking a guy who is pretty good at taking down and really good at submission, you know this as a wrestler as well, like balance is your best friend. There's a reason why Royval only has a 39% takedown defense. And part of that is the balance that we talk about. I just don't think you're just going to learn that in 2 or 3 fights. So for me, I think Pantoja wins this fight. I think he wins it by submission. But yes, I did play a little bit more aggressive on the last one. So I got to get some money in the bank. And I'm playing this a little bit more conservative with just inside the distance.
Yeah, grappling and wrestling are by far the hardest things for MMA athletes to pick up. We've seen that tried and true. And as wrestlers, Brad, we know that it is not easy to get that down. I agree. I think this is going by sub, but even by submission or inside the distance, it's not a long price. I think that there's enough here, though, to get super specific. Pantoja's 7 of his 8 submission victories over the last 10 years all have come within the first 2 rounds. So I'm going to pinpoint that. And that includes his rear naked choke victory over Royval 3 fights ago. I'm going to go Pantoja by sub in rounds 1 or 2. You can get that for plus 300. I think that Pantoja is not afraid to have these repeat fights. We saw that with the Moreno fight. Even though Royval's been on the radar recently, and usually it's harder to submit guys you've seen in the past recently, we know that that doesn't bother Pantoja. He's rock solid on the ground. I think he looks for a submission. I think if he's going to get it, there's a very good chance it comes in rounds 1 or 2, and I like that price at plus 300. The other thing here is I might parlay the 2 main events together here. If you just took the money line between Edwards and Pantoja, which is very chalky, but if you took the parlay, it gets you to plus money, which I think that either way, any way you cut it, whether it's Pantoja by submission or finish, whether it's Edwards by knockout or decision, I like both guys a lot to win. It's chalky, but I'll probably parlay both money lines. And then the other thing, if I parlay both of my bets, Pantoja by submission and Edwards by points, that gets me to around plus 500. So I could go along there too. But I like both guys to win in some capacity, and I'll probably parlay both of them. Blow me apart here, Brad. Yeah.
No. That's just the absolute sicko mode right there. If you take the results. But what you said, and you said everything perfectly correct for me. Submissions in 1 or 2, and the price was right. I think you were sitting around plus 300. That is way more valuable than the $125 that we had on just submission. So when you isolate it like that, that's when you really start to find a little bit more value.
They will be doing one of those big Pantheon media days in the lead up to this fight, which, you know, it'll have Colby Covington and Gary, and it'll be this crazy mess of people talking crap back and forth. And in the middle of that will be Stephen Thompson, who is probably the nicest human being, let alone fighter, in the organization. How that fight will go is interesting, and that is my kind of deep dive bet. Stephen Thompson, obviously a massive underdog here. He's the biggest underdog on the card at like plus 430, but I'm going to do it. I can't bet against Stephen Thompson. I'm taking the money line, and it's not totally just bias. I have rationale here. I mean, Shavkat's a monster. The guy's undefeated, all finishes, and it's a nice variety of KOs and submissions. I think people look at him fight. He's got that grinder mentality we're used to seeing with some of those Dagestani wrestlers. You know, the Russian wrestlers just grind guys out and sub them and beat them up. Stephen Thompson, though, notoriously hard to finish. Only 1 loss in his career. No submission losses. The guy, for a striker, has phenomenal takedown defense. He's very good at range. He's very good at keeping the distance. Shavkat loves the dirty boxing. He loves coming into the clinch. I think that's going to be very difficult for a guy like Stephen Thompson, who loves range and loves keeping guys at distance. We saw this with the Jeff Neal fight with Shavkat. I mean, 0 takedowns against Jeff Neal, who's a guy that Stephen Thompson handled pretty well. Not only that, Jeff Neal tuned Shavkat up. I mean, Shavkat's coming in for some clinches from the over-unders to try and dirty box, and separating and coming in and out of that space. Jeff Neal with his boxing was tuning Shavkat up. There's a couple of times where he really got hurt. And if he's getting hurt there, I think Stephen Thompson's got a shot. So I'm not going to get cute with it and say, Thompson KO or any props, but I think I am taking the money line. It's a good sweat that I'll have. Stephen Thompson's an easy guy to root for. So it's a tough bet. I'm not expecting it to win, but if I do, I'll be happy on multiple fronts because I'll have some extra cash in my pocket, but also what a good dude to cheer for.
Dude, absolutely good dude to cheer for. I don't mind you playing this bet because I actually was going to text you prior to this and say, I know you got to be texting this. From a betting perspective and a value standpoint, unless you're parlaying, we're just talking about straight sides and method of victory here. You genuinely can't find value on betting on Shavkat. Like, there's no value on betting on him to finish inside the distance, to win by KO or submission, right? So if you're trying to win money, the only way possible to bet this outside of parlaying, of course, and we know our theories about parlaying, is to bet on Thomson. This fight's going to be an interesting one. It's hard not to root for Thomson, like you said. Just such a pure guy. He's humble. Things that he's gone through in his fighting career just makes you want to root for him. But Shavkat, man, I was watching his UFC build-up interview, and I don't think he said anything that was really like strategic or how he goes about fighting. Basically, he just talked about his life and how he became a fighter, right? But then when he was talking about this fight, I don't know why this stood out so much. Probably because it was translated, right? He said, the translation, it just on the screen is, I must win at any cost, when he talks about fighting in this fight specifically. And I just think that is the mentality that he goes in. And that's a reason why he's undefeated, and a reason why he has 17 finishes. He's not finished a fight, and not finished a fight. I just thought that just resonated with me. Do what you want with that information from a betting perspective. I just thought that was super like badass for a fighter to say something like that, and especially made it more sick that it was translated. So I had to read it. Like, I was like, oh man, this is a freaking tough dude.
It sounds like Ivan Drago and Rocky. Yeah, scary dude. And Stephen Thompson, in the lead up to this fight, and a lot of his interviews, has said that, acknowledged that Shavkat is a scary individual. But Thompson, his window to make a run at the title is short. Yes. And he's not going to say it in as scary as a way as Shavkat, but this is a must win for Thompson too if he wants to make a last run for this belt here. Finally, non-betting related, but our guy Tony Ferguson, who's lost a lot of fights in a row. I wanted to bet this. I did. I actually think the last fight, I at the last minute put in a small bet, mostly just like an empathy bet, that I wanted him to win. I just can't imagine. I've seen some people out here actually putting some money on Ferguson.
Yes,
it's kind of like a feel good thing.
Yes,
I just don't know how at this point, coming off that string of losses, including one only a few months ago. Like, what was it, July? He's last lot. I can't. There's just it's not there. The chin's not looking good. Health wise, hasn't looked great. And I just hope the best for Tony. I want it to end well. I'm not going to put money on it, but that will be a fight that I'm cheering my ass off for.
I'll be cheering for Tony too. What's the motivational guy, David Goggins? He was doing the training with him, the ex-Navy SEAL. Like, he's trying to pull all the stops. This got to be his last fight, man. And you talked about money coming on it. I think as early as yesterday afternoon, you could have got a plus 300 for him. Now it's down to plus 240. And it's just like who out there is betting using value as their metric and saying there's too much value on Ferguson? But he lost 6 straight fights, if I remember correctly. So Chin is gone, like you said.
So Ferguson's price is at plus 240 right now.
Yeah, you could.
So it's shorter than Stephen Thompson.
Yes, there was, dude, and there was plus 300s, and I was like, I probably would stab at plus 300. Not stab because I thought he was going to win, but like, what a good story, And like, this is definitely a bump up in, like, I don't want to say competition for Patty, but it's definitely a step up in fighter quality or experience. So anything could happen, but I just don't see him winning. I think this is what he hangs it up. Like, it's one of those, the time has passed me by. Father time has caught up. Like, once you lose your chin, dude, this, like, just not getting it back. You might have maybe 1 or 2 lucky victories, but there's gonna be dudes who are gonna be putting you on your butt.
Yeah, I am nervous for Tony, and obviously health wise, wish him the best. But
Yep.
yeah, if you're taking Tony at plus 200, man, the heartstrings are pulling hard. Well, Brad, that'll do it, man. Enjoy the card this weekend, and that goes for all of our listeners too. Thank you guys so much, Brad. Thank you as always. We'll see you in the new year probably as soon as we get another schedule, another card back in. But thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, dude.
That'll do it for this edition of Octagon Circles and Squares. As always, thanks for watching us. Enjoy the fights. Stay tuned to this channel. Like, subscribe, keep your eyes on us, and we'll see you in the new year. Thanks again.